Throughout our lives, we, as people, change, grow, and experience new things every day. During every moment of our lives, our brain is working hard for us, expanding in order to adapt to changes in our environment and creating new memories. Since even before we were born, up until adulthood, our brains change and develop in order to better understand our environment. When our brains enter development, simpler neural connections begin forming, but gradually get more complex over time. In fact, in the first few years of our lives, over 1 million neural connections broke per second. After this rapid growth of neural connections, they go through a process called pruning, which allows brain circuits to become more efficient. With this, the ability to perceive both social and emotional functions improve. In order for that to happen, a certain cell, called the neuron, is needed, which is the basic unit of the nervous system and specializes in sending messages to the rest of the body. Without any neurons, our bodies would be unable to function properly because all of our actions rely on them. Of course, the development of many sections and functions of your brain, as well as how often you use your brain, can determine how well it develops. As the time flies by, we, along with our brains, get older every year. During this time, brain tissue volume increases up until age 32, and then decreases about 5% per decade after the age of 40, causing your brain to shrink. Later on, after the age of 70, the shrinking rate increases due to neuronal cell death. However, when one is still an adolescent, the brain experiences a growth spurt mostly in the front lobe. Teenage brains go through another process of pruning similar to small children, and eventually reach maturity in the areas in charge of abilities such as speech and sensory capabilities. In our lifetimes, we create and store millions of memories for every moment of our lives. Our memories build us up and tell us who we are. Although most of the things we encounter might never make it into long-term memory and eventually become forgotten, they color our view of the world and determine our relationships with others. However, these are not the only functions of our memories. Our memories are vital to our knowledge of the world and are part of our brain's adaptation to the environment. One essential part for this is our hippocampus. This part of our brain helps file and create memories. If it's damaged, no new memories can be created, but old ones can be recalled. This can be an issue for people at certain ages, since memories are essential for our brains to develop. However, each person is born with only one brain, meaning that if something happens to it, problems in brain development and bodily functions will occur. In the United States, approximately 1.5 billion people suffer from brain injuries each year. Out of those 1.5 billion, approximately 50,000 of them die and 85,000 suffer long-term disabilities. In total, there are more than 5.3 million people that live with disabilities due to brain injury. Although disabilities are a common result of brain injury, intellectual and developmental issues can also be found present at birth. These kind of disabilities affect an individual's development overall, like affecting body parts and their functions, or changing the ability to adapt. Adapting to outer environments are an essential part of both living and our brain's development. For example, when one is a child, they may live in a positive environment where they are loved and cared for when they want attention. By growing up in an environment such as the one aforementioned, a child would grow up healthy and have a well-developing brain. However, if it is the opposite, and a child grows up in a negative or even violent environment, their brains may not fully develop or become hyper-alert for danger. The human brain adapts to a hostile environment as easily as it adapts to a nice one, but the exact effects depend on their age and the amount of negativity they were exposed to. As a result, they might have major issues with behavioral, social, and emotional functions. The present also changes the development of our brains. In our everyday lives, we experience stress, but there are 3 levels to the severity. The first one is positive stress, which is a part of our daily lives and has extremely short-term effects. Learning to deal with this type of stress is a part of the brain's development. Tolerable stress is next, and it is a type that can affect the brain pretty badly, but all it needs is time to recover. Lastly, we have toxic stress, the kind of stress that affects the brain to severe levels. There's a possibility that the effects will never disappear due to the strength of this type of stress. Of course, social influences also affect the development of the brain depending on how positive they are. In fact, People who are more invested in their social bonds are healthier than those who aren't, since social interactions influence self-esteem and happiness. As we grow and develop, our brain follows us the whole way and helps us get through our everyday lives. As we continue on with our work and play, we are creating new memories and learning to better adjust to our environment.